Hi everybody, this is Maya Zahira with Psychic Protection Sanctuary, and we are now live in our Psychic Protection Sanctuary Facebook group. This is our free Facebook group. So if you're watching this on YouTube, just a shout out to you watching the replay, and I invite you to join our Psychic Protection Sanctuary Facebook group so you can ask questions and interact live. So as we have people joining us, I'd like to go over our topic for today and talk about first why I'm even talking about this. And as usual, I'm going to have to glance at my notes just to keep me on track. So today's topic is 3 mind control methods of false online spiritual teachers. 3 mind control methods that are frequently used by false spiritual teachers who are working online. Okay? So I hope the air conditioner is not too loud, you guys. There's probably some blowing sounds. We're just going to have to deal with that. I live in Arizona and it's very, very hot here. So hi everybody who's joining live. So what I want to do is start off by talking about why I want to just share with you why I'm even called to talk about this. So first of all, it's something that I see really, really clearly. I think like each person on the planet has their special gifts, right? For me, I'm able to see through bullshit. Like I can see false light entities. I can identify right away when there's mind control stuff going on, whether it's a spiritual teacher or otherwise. But a lot of people don't have that exact spidey sense. And so I want to give you the nuts and bolts. Hey Robert, hey Hamad, good to see you both. I think there's other people in here, but I'm not seeing them yet. So why am I doing this video? First of all, there are, over the years, I've had a lot of people who have sent me emails and Facebook messages. I've kind of been the go-to person. People will send me a link and say, what do you think? Is this authentic, or is there something nefarious going on? Like, for example, they might be wanting to study this particular website's material, or they might be thinking about studying with this particular spiritual teacher, and they'll shoot me a message and say, hey, can you take a look? Because they know I can see through all of the crazy stuff. And so that phenomenon has been happening over the last couple of years, and I'm always happy to do it. Simply because it's my understanding that so many of you are literally in the process of developing your discernment. And so it's not that I'm doing it for you, it's that you're still figuring out your discernment and you're still figuring out how to know who to trust and how to see through the deception and the illusions. And so as you're figuring that out, I've been here offering some guidance and helping you when you're not sure what the answers are. So that's one reason why I'm doing this video, is so that so just to help you develop those skills yourself even more. And the second reason why I'm doing this video is because there was a situation that happened a couple of weeks ago, and it really brought this whole topic to the top of my mind. No pun intended. We're talking about mind control. A couple of friends and myself, we were going to join a live online teleconference. It was like a video seminar, or I forget exactly what it was, but it was like you join live and there's all these people on there and there's a spiritual teacher that's teaching. It was actually a really good thing, but not in a good way. It actually was really good practice for all 3 of us in different ways, I think, in discernment. So long story short, this online workshop was filled with deception and energetic manipulation, in my opinion. And what was interesting was that one of the friends never did make it to this online workshop. She got distracted, or it wasn't that she got distracted, but some things in life happened and it pulled her away from attending this online thing. So it's like her angels were kind of watching out for her and made it so she didn't even participate in that energy at all. And then, so then it was just myself and this other friend who were watching it. We live in different places in the world, but we were messaging each other now and then as we were watching this. And I actually only watched about, I don't know, maybe it was 5 or 10 minutes. And then the other friend, I think, watched through the whole thing. But after about 10 minutes, I was like, oh, hell no. I mean, actually, let me just say, I'm pretty open-minded, so I was giving it a chance. So at first, when it first started, I was like, yeah, this doesn't seem right. There was a lot of what I call spiritual word salad. The person putting on the presentation was saying all sorts of, like, just going on and on about all these concepts and everything that I was like, all of it, it was like a bunch of gobbledygook. Like, none of it made sense, but it all sounded really fancy. And I'm like, okay, this sounds like it's that kind of thing. Like, I want something grounded. But the other people in there were eating it up like crazy. They were just like, wow, this is so amazing. But the guy wasn't even saying anything. He wasn't like, if I were to sit each person down and say, what exactly was he saying? They'd be like, oh, they wouldn't be able to explain it because it was just gobbledygook, word salad, spiritual stuff, and none of it made any sense, but it made him sound really important, okay? So that was the first red flag, and I'm like, okay, this is not really, I don't think I'm going to get very much out of this. But then there was something else that happened, and that's when I said, oh, hell no. And I'm like, I'm shutting this off. I'm not taking part in this. At that point was in the point in the webinar when he put a message, image. It was an image. I forget exactly what the image was, but it was a sacred geometry image. Which sacred geometry, I love sacred geometry. Sacred geometry is the fact that all these different shapes that exist in the universe have particular vibration, particular energy, and particular power, and there's certain shapes that can open our energy, which can be a good thing, or a bad thing if it's being used to manipulate. So at this point in the webinar, the facilitator said, I want you to gaze at this image. And so again, remember, I have really strong spidey sense about anything mind control. And so as soon as he said that and I looked at the image, that's when I was like, oh, hell no. Because I realized right then and there what he was doing was getting everybody to gaze at this image so they would go into a hypnotized state so that he could then draw them in even further. And I said, nope, not going to do that. And so that was when I shut it off. It is really cool that my other friend did listen all the way through, so that she was able, because I was curious. I said, inquiring minds want to know, like, what else did this person talk about? And we chatted about it. It was pretty much all the same, like same as before. So I didn't really miss anything. But then it started this really interesting conversation amongst the three of us where we were talking about discernment and about what to watch out for. And by the end of that Facebook conversation, I said, well, I'm going to do a class on 3 mind control techniques that are used by online false spiritual teachers, because this is a real problem. So that is a little bit of the history behind this. Okay, let me just mess with my device really quick, you guys. Sometimes I have to update it in order to see everybody. Hi, everybody. Go ahead and tell me where you're joining from. We do have a smaller group today. I kind of was feeling that intuitively. I wasn't feeling a lot of energy build up for this one, but that's okay. I mean, I was feeling excited about the topic, but I wasn't feeling a lot of you guys getting ready to join. That's okay. Those of you who are here, I'm really glad that you're here. And I do think there's going to be a lot of people watching this replay because this is a really important topic. Okay, so I'm going to kind of switch around how I was going to talk about this. I'm going to talk about the 3 techniques in just a moment. Before I do, hi Katie. Katie's joining us from the UK, and we have several others too. They're just being quiet right now. So before I get into the 3 techniques, the 3 mind control methods, which actually are pretty simple, but it's like once I tell them to you, you're going to be like, oh yeah, of course. But it's like you don't know them until you know them. So I'll tell those to you in just a moment. But first I want to jump ahead on my notes and just explain, like, why would somebody want to use mind control techniques? Like, why would they intentionally want to do that? So think about that for a second. If there's a spiritual teacher who is, let's say they're completely false, like they're a total fraud, or maybe they're like partially authentic, if that's a thing. They're partially authentic, like they are trying to sort of help people, but there's also some ego involved, and they want to gain popularity, and they want people to fawn all over them, and maybe that's why they're intending to use some mind control methods. So it could be that the spiritual teacher is completely false, and it's a total manipulation, okay? Like totally, like they're not authentic at all. Or the person is somewhat authentic, but they haven't done their inner shadow work, and so their egotism is driving them, and so they're falling into using some mind control methods in order to gain popularity. Okay, but let's look at the other, like, underlying reasons. Why would they want to use mind control? Looking at it from the vantage point of, like, the dark forces, the negative agenda. Well, when they're using mind control, what this does is it jacks up your energy. So if you are taking part in a webinar, or you're hanging out on a website where you're staring at these spinning images or whatever, listening to these vibrations and listening to messages or reading things, and the energy is really wonky and it's set up for mind control, it is going to jack up your energy, okay? You don't want to spend time having that done to you. You don't want your energy jacked up. And by jacked up, I mean, like, it can throw off your chakra system. It can cause damage to your auric field, cause your field to become weaker. It can cause implants to be implanted. These are etheric, spiritual implants for tracking and surveillance. So weird stuff can be implanted into you. And then some of those implants can actually initiate a more ongoing mind control in regards to making you complacent or easier to control, keeping you on the wrong track, okay? And that might, if you're new to this subject, that might sound really out there, but I'll tell you that I've worked with several clients who've been impacted by this kind of stuff, and it is a real thing. There's another video somewhere in my YouTube channel about psychotronic weapons as well, and this kind of ties in with that. It's about using technology to mess with somebody's energy and mess with somebody's mind. Another reason why this mind control is being done is to keep you off of your true path. So let's say there's some, like, compelling content online, and you're like, oh my God, I need to go look at this website, and you go there, and you don't know what these 3 mind control methods are, so you don't know what you don't know, and so you end up on this website, and you end up getting pulled into all of these concepts or ideas, and it completely throws you off of your true path, and it completely throws you off of the actual truth. Okay, so basically it leaves you like chasing your tail and chasing all. It's like this loop of false information, keeping you from doing and being what you're supposed to. So Phyllis says, I'm just popping in for a few minutes. We'll be eating dinner in a few. Yeah, you can always watch the replay. Okay, so let's talk about these 3 mind control methods. As I mentioned, they're very simple, but if you don't know them, you don't know them, and then you get fooled. So remember that I mentioned that over the years I've looked at a lot of websites and vetted a lot of online spiritual teachers as a way to assist people who were contacting me. I am overall, my perspective is that I am supportive of all my colleagues and everybody out there. That's my first default, is to be supportive of everybody. So I'm not saying that every spiritual teacher out there is bad or that I'm anti every spiritual teacher. I actually, like I said, my first default is to support everybody. But I don't want to be supporting spiritual teachers and guides, spiritual guides who are engaging in this kind of stuff. So these are the 3 examples. These are the 3 things that I have seen a lot of, whether it's on a website or on a webinar or a video or some other kind of educational online content or experience, or like a group clearing session or what have you. Okay, so grab a pen and paper. These are really simple, but I have this feeling that like if you don't write them down, you might forget them. It's kind of like this mind control loop that if you don't get it down on paper, it's going to disappear. So do yourself a favor, write these 3 down. Number 1, and these are not in any particular order. Number 1 is the use of sacred geometry. So we already talked about that. If you don't know what sacred geometry is, do a Google search. Since this is just a video right now where I'm just talking to you, I don't have any special images to put up on the screen. But do a Google search and search for sacred geometry, and you'll see very quickly what it is if you don't know what it is. You'll see all sorts of shapes, and again, as I mentioned earlier, most shapes in sacred geometry are not necessarily bad. So I love sacred geometry. I use sacred shapes for all sorts of things. But what's true is that a lot of things that exist, including sacred geometry, can be used for either good or bad. So in these cases, the sacred shapes are being used for nefarious purposes. And there are several websites that I've gone to. I'm not going to name any, by the way, but there are several websites that I've gone to where you pull it up and you look at it, and there's one or several sacred geometric shapes. For example, let me give you an example of, like, there's the tetrahedron is an example of a sacred shape, like the let me think of like the 5-pointed star, the 6-pointed star, things like that. Okay, that just to name a few. But let's say you go to this website, there are these shapes there. I've actually been to websites where these shapes are spinning. There was one website I went to, and I'm like, I pull it up, there's the sacred shape, and it's spinning. It's literally like a hypnotic tool, literally. And I'm looking at this, I'm like, oh my God, okay. Like, how would this not hypnotize anybody? It was so obvious to me. But I guess it wasn't obvious to a lot of people. So using sacred geometry, so these sacred geometric shapes, they can be programmed with particular intent. So a sacred shape can be used for good, for healing, for manifesting, for protection. So there's a lot of good that can be used with these shapes, but it can also be programmed for nefarious purposes, and basically for mind control, to numb you out and to make you make your mind more malleable. It's especially bad if the shape is spinning. Okay, that's a big red flag. There's a vocabulary word that I want you to know, and it's called a sigil. S-I-J, sorry, I just messed up. S-I-G-I-L. S-I-G-I-L is a sigil. It is a magical drawing, a magical shape. I'm not going to go into a big long lesson as to what a sigil is, but a sigil, I'm going to give you an example though of how it can be used. So think about, now this video I'm doing it on June 1st, 2020. We're going through the COVID-19 situation. I want you to think about the fact that everywhere you go online, there is an image of the COVID virus. Like, have you noticed that? It's basically there for, so it's a picture of the virus, but I very much believe that that is being put everywhere. Like, you pull up your Google Maps to try to go somewhere, what do you see on there? Or what on my Google Maps, what do I see on there? It's like a logo. It's this little image of the COVID-19 virus. It's so weird. This is a symbol that's been programmed with black magic, okay? So this is a little bit beyond the traditional sacred geometric shapes. When we get into sigils, that can also include logos. So if a false spiritual teacher has kind of a weird logo on their website, then it can actually be programmed with black magic. It would be considered a sigil, which is a shape that's been programmed with either positive or negative energy. And in these cases, I'm referring to black magic. Okay. Again, the intent here with the sacred geometry or the sigils is to hypnotize or to manipulate your energy. Okay. Oh, and I had put into my notes a few different shapes that I see frequently used to manipulate people on websites. One of them is called the Flower of Life, and another one is Metatron's Cube. And often these will be either still or spinning, and it's to manipulate your energy. Okay. So number 2 on the list, just checking the time right here. So number 2 on the list of mind control method that can be used for manipulation by false spiritual teachers is sound vibrations. Okay, so many of you who are into spiritual healing know about sound healing. I love sound healing. I, in fact, did some sound healing on myself today. I balanced my chakras using tuning forks. I'm very pro sound healing. But just like with sacred geometry, this can be used for either positive or negative purposes. So let me give some examples of sound vibrations, just for those of you who aren't fully aware of this. So right now it's very popular in New Age music and with New